Okay, guys and gals, about 10 seconds of the obligatory disclaimer. If you want to read the whole thing, just pause the video. Members only video. Let's take a look at the S&P 500. And I'm also going to talk about the new feature that I put up last night. The short list for all the different symbols, guys and gals. S&P 500, the NASDAQ, the Russell 2000. There's some futures in there. There's even a list for all the stocks that are optionable. Okay, but I'll get that in a moment. Let's talk about the S&P 500 first. Okay, so what do I think is going to happen? Keep this super simple. As I said earlier, I think yesterday's video was a public video, but this one's members only. I don't think there should be any short trading above this 50-day moving average. I just don't think it's a smart idea. And I said that last night, and what do you know? We had this big green day, okay? So just be patient. I think, if just looking at this chart, we're still in this big old cycle low process as this thing is chopping along, and I still think there's more work to do here before this thing takes off. The probability is the price will go up. Okay, so I'm just gonna. It's included in tonight's email. So if you're not on the email for you remember, just DM me on the Discord server your email address. I add you to the nightly emails. Okay, but let me just talk about what I think may happen here. There's some different cycles going on here. We obviously can see on the Big Daddy forecast. There's some divergence warnings going on here, right? And sure enough, we got a price decline because of the divergence that was going on. But we may be slowly coming out of this pullback, though I don't think we're in the clear yet. So I'm just going to draw on here one of the possible scenarios I think is going to happen, okay? Something like this, okay? Maybe down into the 17th a little bit. Don't take... What I'm drawing, don't line it up with the points and say, but Getis said it would come down to 4,200. This is just a scenario of how the price may move, not necessarily perfect to scale. Does that make sense? All right. So something kind of like that. All right, and I think we'll get a rise. Okay. Maybe something like this. A little decline again. Okay. And then once we clear this and clear this, we might be. Then I think we're off to the races. Okay. Now it may not play out exactly like this. It may come lower. It may go higher. It doesn't matter. But something kind of like that as we deal with some other cycle lows that are coming in here. Okay, on these other cycles. If you want to know what those are, that's February 28th. Okay. That's Feb 28th right there. All right. This other one is, I think, March 14th. Yeah, March 14th. And this would be M14. Okay. Right, so that's why I say we may see some, this may even come a little bit more over here like this before it gets up here, okay? It doesn't mean this is exactly what price is going to do. I'm just looking at the way cycles lows are here. This green cycle may be really super strong and just kind of overrides these two smaller cycles. Okay, but looking back, I can see the yellow cycle and the purple cycle work together there. Here you had the yellow cycle had, okay, the green and the purple came together there. I'm just looking at how these multiple cycles are going on, okay, and how they have an influence on price. Clearly, the market, there is some change because this purple cycle right here took out the previous high from this purple cycle. All right. We're looking at a daily chart, but if we were to go back on the weekly chart, we would see that this is on the weekly chart, this high over here. So this big old green cycle hasn't taken out this big old green cycle's high, which way up here is 43.27. So that may happen in this cycle over here. Well, I don't know yet. Maybe not, because there's some anticipated price decline down into here. Maybe here and here, right? And this one is March 14th. That could be a big decline down to that one, or even this one over here, which is April 25th. But I would be more inclined to think the March 14th. But then again, I was back here on February 6th. I was touting it for weeks. It was going to be a big pullback, whatever that was, somewhere right around here. And yeah, basically this green cycle is. And it really didn't happen. Just had this tiny little pullback, and so we're going to see how this all plays out. So that's my take on what I think could potentially happen with the S&P 500. I don't think we should short anything here above the 50. It's just way too risky. Even though this potentially could still be called a bull flag, even though it's kind of a weak looking bull flag. Right? You don't really have much of a flag here. But there's a nice run up here, and the market didn't pull back really hard. I mean, it's not anywhere near this 50-day moving average. It may still come down and touch this as we approach the 17th, which is right here. But it may not. If we just get a little bump down and it starts going up like this, and this green sucker really takes over and just says, okay, I'm ignoring this, I'm ignoring that, though I'm inclined to think one of these two cycles is going to come into play, the yellow one or the purple one. Okay. Again, February 28th right there, and March 14th right there. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. I just think you need to be really careful in the S&P 500. Don't short this. Okay. I wouldn't do that. Above the 50, don't short it. If anything, if you absolutely was aggressive, I'd say long side trade's better. But I don't like either. I don't like taking a position right now as a swing trader. Too much uncertainty in this area right here. Okay. All right. Let's switch over to the short list I've been putting out. I'm going to talk about how the different ways I view how you can use a short list. Okay. It isn't just automatically short a symbol on the short list. Let me switch over to one of the short lists. We'll just use the S&P 500 as an example. But what I'm about to show you can apply to the NASDAQ list. It can apply to the Russell 2000 list. Okay. It could apply to, especially to, there's a list now, and let's switch over to Discord server, and I'll show you the channel I'm talking about. All right, so here we are on the Discord server. At the very bottom is a premium symbols channel, and I already put in today's files, which starts right here. You're looking for February 13th. Okay. Now the ones above that are from the previous day, going that way. So I'm going to eventually probably just delete those. I'll probably just keep 2 days worth of lists in here. So make sure if you want those lists, you're going to download them, right? You're going to go to these links, and you're going to download the list. Okay. So what do we have here? With the first one I put up today, and they could be in different orders on different days, so just pay attention to the name, right? This one though is a new one I added. All stocks optionable. So these are all the stocks, okay, or at least most of them that are optionable on this short list, meaning they are stocks that should have options on them that look very peaky. Okay, and they could potentially be scenario. That's true for all of these. Same for all of these, right? You've got NASDAQ, you've got Russell 2000, you got the S&P 500. Okay, there's futures there too. There's only just a few of them in there, but they're there. But for the options traders, I know there's quite a few options traders that use my service. Okay, so you can open up this one. Okay, this one right here, and you can go down the list and start picking the cream of the crop. I suggest just taking this list and import it into your daily watch list. It should be importable. Okay, so just import it into your daily watch list. Then you can kind of quick fire through your watch list, pick out the ones you think you want to trade options on. Okay, but let me just use, I'm not going to dive too deep into the option strategies. I'll let you guys do your thing, but I'm just going to grab the S&P 500 file. Okay, but what I'm about to show you applies to any one of these pretty much. And let's talk about how would I use one of these short lists right now today or tomorrow if I were to make a trade. Okay, so let me switch over to this file. Okay. All right, so here's Apple. Now what I'm going to do is, I would first, compare this to the S&P 500. Right? I'm not just going to come here and blindly short this stock. No matter what strategy I use, shorting the stock itself, using options strategy to short it, long puts, whatever you're going to do. Before I just blindly come here and use this list to short, I'm going to go look at the S&P 500. I just brought this up so you could see what's going on with Apple. So let's switch back to the futures, the S&P 500 futures, and here we are. What's happening with the market? Now you can put two symbols on the chart at the same time. So I'll leave that up to you guys to do it. I know the TOS platform lets you do that. But regardless, you want to look at the market first. What's happening with the market? Well, overall, the last 5-6 trading days, the market's still going down. Let me get yellow here. Market's still going down. Now we had a couple days, we had a morning star going on right there, and then today we had a nice big green day. But overall, you can see the lower highs. So we'll just see if this bounce right here continues and takes off. Let me make this a little bit bigger so everybody can see it. So I want to look at the market. I know since way back here, it's been very strong and very bullish, taken off big time, right? We got this little kind of mini pullback. Could be a bear flag, possibly. I'm sorry, bull flag. It's possible. Off to the moon. So I'm going to come and look at, in this case, the S&P 500, especially if I'm looking at the S&P 500 short list, and I want a sense of the market first. Now, let me just take me as primarily as a swing trader. If I were to trade stock, which I don't trade a lot of stock nowadays, I trade mostly futures, but if I were to trade Apple, that's on that list, I'd want to come here and look. What do I see? I see I'm in a cycle low. Right there. There's a cycle low going on here. I'm going to be careful. It's choppy. It is down, but it's still choppy. So I'm going to be very careful about this. If I had this list way back over here, where I had this evening star going on, I probably would have nibbled on some options and shorted Apple and let it play out. Now this day right here would have been pretty challenging, but I still would have probably made some pretty good money on these 2 days right here, and maybe even these 2 days, right? Because I know I had a evening star right here. That big green candlestick with this green candlestick with a big long upper wick, that's pretty much an evening star. That gives me a little bit of confidence even during this cycle low, and I know we're going to probably get chop. I could probably, as a little bit more aggressive trade, I can make that trade. So it's what I want to convey to you right now is don't just blindly use this list and make some short side trades. I'm going to come look at the S&P 500 S&P 500, which I'm using the futures to do that. I want to get a sense of the market. Since I know we're in a choppy kind of downward thing, a trend going on with a possible bounce, but it hasn't really confirmed itself yet, I might not even trade this at all. At least not short. Okay? I'm not just going to blindly grab Apple here and trade it short. The market's it's too, in my opinion, unpredictable during this time. It's just still doing its thing over here. Choppy, choppy, chop. Whatever it's going to do, okay? However it comes out of here, is it going to go down into this? It's going to come down into here. We have to wait to see how this plays out. That's what I would do. All right. Now, over a longer term, I see that this big old purple cycle is very strong. I can see it's strong. My goodness, is it strong? Yeah. I'm paying attention to the strength of this cycle. Now, what's interesting is that the middle of this cycle, which is exactly what we're in, I'm talking about the purple cycle here, you can see we just hit this chop. Look at that. Put a rectangle right around it. I've talked about this many, many times. We're right in the middle of this big old purple cycle, and what is the market doing? Chopping sideways. Also, we're at the bottom. We've come into this cycle, this big, huge green cycle here. We've come into a cycle low, but it hasn't really dropped dramatically. It's nowhere near the 50. 50 days, 39.88. We're up here at 41.45. Very strong, right? So I know based on this big bullish movement, it didn't really pull back hard, at least not yet. It hasn't to the 50-day. I know that all this overall is telling me the market is bullish. It's still strong despite all this chop going on in here. And even though there's a tendency to have a little pullback here, and possibly though we might be looking at a bull flag, maybe. So am I going to short Apple based on what I'm seeing right here? No, I'm not going to do that. I'd put this on my watch list and I'd bang through them and see which ones, might make sense to me. Another way to look at this list right here is in as strong as this market is right now, you might want to wait just for this pullback to finish, okay, wherever it finishes. And that might be an indication that you can look at this from a contrarian perspective. Yes, it's a short list. Yes, it's reflecting stocks that seem to be peaky. But that might just be a sign of strength. That's the second way you want to look at this. The first way is, yes, you could short them, but in a strong market like we're in right now, you could wait till the pullback is finished, and as the S&P 500 in this case, if you see it bouncing and starts to get strong, that would be a really good indication to probably go long an Apple. And you can do that straight up stock or options. So I want you to realize that you can use these lists not just for, even though they're called short lists because that means they're very peaky, you can look at it from a contrarian perspective. In a strong market, they actually may be strong. The movement of the stock itself, the individual stock may be strong. You just have to wait for the bounce to happen. And that would be your cue to go long on Apple or any of these other ones that look like they're in a good position. Right? Right. Now the third, so there's two ways I'll look at this list. The first way was I'm going to go in with the intent to short because they're peaky. Right? But I'm going to look at the S&P 500 in this case. I'm going to look at the market and see what is going on with the market. Well, it's trending really strong. Oh, now I'm going to be more cautious about shorting. I'm not just going to short. And then in this case, I'm going to wait for it to decline and bounce, and then I'd go long. Because this list may actually be showing very strong stocks. I'm just saying it's possible. If they're peaky, it may be peaky for a reason, meaning they're ready to pull back just a little bit and bounce again. Now, I don't know that for certain. I'm just saying I want you to take that into consideration. Okay? Right, so the overall market's super, super important and how you look at these lists. You want to, generally speaking, guys and gals, you want to trade with the trend. And since we're in this choppy cycle low, the trend is not really clear yet, right? We got to wait for this thing to finish. All right. The other thing that occurred to me, and I mentioned this in one of the channels on the Discord server, is, and I'll try to do this soon, is the total count of all the symbols across all the markets, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, the Russell 2000, should be pretty simple to do. If we see that, let's say across all the markets we see, I'm just making up a number, guys, right? So we see 200 symbols on the short list collectively. S&P 500, the NASDAQ, and the Russell 2000. Let's say there's 200 symbols showing up on the short list, total, combined, everything. And then tomorrow I see 250. Well, to me, there's something going on there. Either the market's beginning to weaken because more are getting very peaky. The other scenario, like I said, is it could be actually getting stronger. Right? But the dynamic of the market's changing if I see that there's more showing up on the short list. Yeah? We're getting more stocks that look very peakish. I would be careful because it might indicate there's going to be a pullback. Okay? If I see something more like 160 total stocks across all the markets, I know something else is going on. There's less stocks looking peaky. That's useful information. They're in transition. They're doing something. It's possible the market's actually getting stronger. Right? It's blowing through the peakiness. Or there's another scenario going on. They've already peaked and now they're kind of somewhere in between and they're pulling down. So this number right here is a really important number. I'm going to include it here probably pretty soon. Right, in the emails, the nightly emails, the total stocks that look like they're peaky and shorty according to the Big Daddy forecast logic. That's going to be a very useful gauge in conjunction with things like the certainty rate. Okay, really super nice. All right, which by the way, as I get ready to finish up this, so that anyway, before I head on to anything else, this is how you want to use the list. You always want to use the list in conjunction with what the market's doing. Go take a look at the market first, and then you look at this list, and you can have a better idea of how you're going to use the list to trade. Okay. I want to finish up by saying the certainty rate today looked like it was moving in the opposite direction. All right, which to me feels a little bit bullish. It feels a little bit bullish. All right. So we're going to wait to see, what does this thing do? Or when do we get out of this? What's going on here? You know, choppy, choppy, chop. Is it choppy, choppy down like this? Are we coming out of it? All right, so we're going to wait to see how this whole choppy session. I mean, right here, it probably might be hard to see on the video, but that's February 17th. Obviously, there's options expiring there. Okay, so we're going to keep an eye on this. I think once we get past the 17th, which I think is Thursday or Friday, this Thursday is option expiration apparently. So I think once we get past that, we'll hopefully have a better feel for what's going to happen with this market. And the very last thing I want to say is don't expect the market to act like it used to act before 2022. Don't expect it just to be straight up, like every day just chugging up, 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 up. I wouldn't count on that. You want to know why? Because the lending rate is much higher now than it's been in many, many, many years, more than a decade, maybe 2 decades, decade and a half, whatever it's been. The lending rate, that's the Federal Reserve lending rate that they lend, the rate that they put out to banks. And then the banks lend the money to homeowners and businesses and so on and so forth, right? We're going to have a high lending rate for years to come, guys and gals. The era of free and cheap money is over. Why is that a big deal? What am I talking about, cheap and free money? Well, corporations borrow money so that they can expand their businesses, right? And they put out corporate bonds, and they refinance those corporate bonds. Like me, I buy corporate bonds because they pay good interest, some of them anyway. So everything becomes more expensive for businesses. More expensive to buy equipment, more expensive to expand their business, to build bigger buildings, more buildings, whatever. Product line or services that they provide. It becomes more expensive because the lending rate is higher. Okay, so they're cautious about borrowing money because it costs them more to borrow. The interest rate is higher, they got to pay back more interest. And that's a big deal because corporations can't be as profitable as easily as they were before. So don't expect the market just to chug up, 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 all-time highs. This is not going. I don't think that's going to happen. Right? This market's going to be more unpredictable than before, and you'll have more pullbacks. Eventually, what I see happening in a year or 2 or 3, however long it takes to play out, is I see the market become more stagnant and less up and down, and it's going to start moving sideways. Maybe not this dramatic, but that's what's going to happen to the stock market, guys and gals. It's going to just start moving sideways. It's going to have less dramatic movement. You'll have some up, you'll have some down. It's going to kind of begin to flatten out because there's going to be less volatility in the market. That's going to happen. You can almost count on it. But for now, we still have lots of volatility and lots of opportunity to make bank, yeah? Okay, so I hope that gives you a better understanding of not only what I think the S&P 500 might do in the short term in this video to my members only, but also how to make better use of those short lists. Always consult the market first before you use the list. That's a really good idea. Always try to trade with the trend, okay? All right, if you're not sure about some of the things I said, just go back and rewind the video and watch it again, okay? All right, that's it for now. Talk to you all real soon again next time.